This man does not lie. Penn State gets a commitment today from three-star defensive tackle Tyriq Blanding. I'm your host, Thomas Frank Carr, here on a special breaking news edition of the BWI Daily. Ryan Snyder put in a pick for Tyriq Blanding. All the signs pointed to it, and here we are. He is now a Nittany Lion. So tell us about the story that got us to this point, Ryan.
Well, first off, my wife would definitely tell you that I lie. But anyway, white lies. White lies. Husband lies.
Yeah.
Okay, so Tyriq Blanding, 6'2", 265 from Christ the King Regional in Middle Village, New York. He's from New York City, of course. Penn State offered, earlier this year. I forget the exact date, if I'm being honest with you. I believe it was back in the springtime. And he came for an unofficial visit. Let's see, what was it? I believe it was late March, I want to say, March 21st. And that's really when things kind of started getting in motion. Penn State was interested, but they had to learn more, everything from height and weights to all types of little specifics. And really, just from a relationship perspective, does this player fit our program perspective? And that's really what was taking place that March 21st visit, and things ended up pretty good, as you can clearly tell. But after that, he took a handful of visits. We know he went to Michigan on April 2nd. Syracuse got him on campus April 18th. And then there were a handful of others out west. He took a trip out to see Oregon on April 23rd. And while he was out there, he also saw Washington and Oregon State. Tyriq's final five were Penn State, Michigan, West Virginia, Syracuse, and Oregon. I think, from my impression, that Michigan and Oregon were the ones that intrigued him the most, which, they're the top programs in that top five, along, of course, with Penn State. And distance from home was certainly an impact on that. Mom came for the official visit, which was a week ago now from this point, and mom really enjoyed the trip and was sold on Penn State. One thing that Tyriq told me was kind of funny is his first visit to Penn State, he saw the facility, he saw Beaver Stadium and stuff, but he saw a bunch of farmland, is what he said, which was funny.
That's so New York.
From the city, right? Yeah. And he, on his official visit then, he really got to see downtown and the full campus and stuff. And he said it's not just a bunch of farmland. It's a nice city, which it was fun hearing some honesty from some guys coming from, of course, a place like New York City. But good get for the Nittany Lions. Right now, he is an 89 on three's. I don't know, the rating system, I guess you would call it, which an 89 is right outside a 4-star range. 90s where you become a 4-star, and we have it at number 48 for defensive lineman. That is higher than any other site at the moment. He is a 3-star on Rivals and 24/7 as well as on 3. But I think as more sites maybe get a bit of a look at him, I wouldn't be surprised if he moves up a bit. His on-3 consensus number is 85, again, because 24/7 and Rivals have him a bit lower than on-3. But quality prospect here that John Scott's been on for quite a while now. Go ahead.
To clarify, that's at his position, 85th overall at his position in the nation.
No, an 85 on the. So we have.
Oh, excuse me. Okay,
know, 60 to 100 scale, I believe it is, when you do ratings, and he's an 85 in the consensus because Rivals and 24/7 bring him down a bit.
Okay,
and on 3's number is 89, and again 90 is where you become a 4-star. So he's the highest 3-star that you could possibly be.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. So the positional fit for Penn State, I think he is very much is in line with other players they've recruited at this position in recent years. Not a 6'6", 330-pound defensive tackle, nose tackle. 6'2", as you mentioned, 265 pounds. Great frame to grow, but a guy that does need to grow. So if those things do fall into place, and if we get some, obviously if we got testing numbers, I think that would change quite a bit. Is this a player with a 3-star upside to be a 4-star, both in perception and reality? So there's two conversations here. There is the player and his potential and his actual ability on the field, but then the correlation of bumping up Penn State's class by becoming a 4-star player for then the perception of the recruiting process. Is that all a possibility with Blanding, or do you feel he is where he is?
I think he's ranked pretty properly at the moment. I do. Now, it's hard without those testing numbers. I think it's going to be hard for our scouts to bump him up. New York City has good individual talent, but it's not like he's going against all-star kind of teams that you see in Washington D.C., that you see in Baltimore, that you see somewhere other places around the country. So I think that'll unfairly to him, but it'll hurt in his scouting process just because we don't know the players that he's going up against. Where, for example, King Mack and Conrad Hussey, they go against some of the best teams in the country down there in South Florida. Those guys, when they're locking down players, they're usually locking down receivers who have Division I offers or are going to play at least FCS level, something like that. So so that's where those testing numbers come in favorably for a player like Tyriq if he's going to get that 4-star rating. But like I said, On3 has him higher than anybody else. I would expect more so maybe other sites to get him as a higher 3-star. Now, of course, if he goes off this year and just has a credible film and is showing so much growth, then it's certainly possible. But if I was picking today, I think the highest 3-star you can be is pretty accurate.
Yeah, and one thing I like, you mentioned the level of competition, which is something you got to be careful of watching film of. This guy is dominating, but the reason he's dominating is he's not just running through players. I think you can see through, if you're watching here on film, that his hand usage is great and his pad level is great. So, if you freeze frame his moment off the snap, his first step, he is coming out low and fast, and that translates. Whether or not the strength at the FBS level it translates, but the quickness, I think, is very much on film what you're looking for at the position, and early positional fundamentals that are hard to teach. If you stand up straight at the snap, if you are going upward instead of forward, that's hard to fix at times, and he has that down perfectly. So from a building blocks perspective for John Scott Jr., I think this is a great moldable player with room to grow and all those things. So even if he is a 3-star, the assessment here on film is that he can easily outperform that if things go the right way in his development process. Any last thoughts here on Blanding as we're taking a look at his film and we're projecting forward in the class?
Not a ton, really. I think he's a solid player in a lot of different areas, too. You've watched more film than I have, but good at getting after the passer, good against the run, too. There's no, glaring weaknesses to me, but there's also no, massive strengths that you see with, a Nittany and, some other guys that we've seen over in recent years. But that's good. I mean, that's what you want, right? You want a guy who's very moldable and who's above average to, I always say, B in a lot of areas. That's great, right? Because you can get him to be an A- here, an A+ here down the road with the right development. So I think that's what Penn State's seeing here. And Tyriq off the field too, really enjoy getting to know him. I think from a relationship perspective, Penn State did a great job there, and I think he would really fit this program well. He told me he has a relationship with Ibrahim Traore, who of course is from New York City, and there's a few other guys too from the city that he just has connections with. One other thing I'll also say is that I was talking to him about recruiting other players and things like that. He is very close with Musa Kane, so I will be curious to see how that maybe impact some things down the road. And Shamir Fredericks is a player we talked about on yesterday's podcast from Canarsie, a really good 2024 prospect that he's pretty friendly with too. I think Shamir is going to be I watched Shamir at Penn State 7-on-7 2 weeks ago, I believe it was. And he's a legit 6'4", 170 athlete, man. Heck, I love his length there. So be curious to see how that relationship and friendship helps Penn State with those recruitments. But Tyriq's a solid addition, and now they have 2 defensive tackles in this class. I could see a third coming at some point, and we'll see where the cards fall.
And I think you make a great point there that Penn State gets a very strong base at this position like they have at other positions. So they have the latitude to go after a high 4-5-star player and keep the door open because they don't have a desperate need at defensive tackle anymore. They have 2 in the class, a good number to have, so they can build on this with some guys they have to wait around for. So Penn State in a great position to start a big official visit weekend. Ryan Snyder, recruiting insider for Blue White Illustrated, thank you for coming on and making time today on a very busy weekend.
Yeah, we'll talk to you guys here early next week to recap it all.
And there will be, despite we're doing an extra little show here, there will be more information on Monday and Tuesday to fill up more than 2 shows. So make sure you subscribe here on YouTube to Blue White Illustrated so you don't miss anything, all the breaking news, all the analysis from Blue White Illustrated.